First Glance with Jody Vance. This is indeed mine and your first glance into a new company that's joining us here on the program. I can't wait to dig into this. I do believe we're headed down under just to connect with Perth, Australia in particular. Jason Bahnsen is the president and CEO of Tempus Resources. Jason, nice to speak with you.
Hello, Jody. Nice to be here.
I have very little knowledge about what your company's story is, and I do that purposefully when we do First Glance with Jody Vance, because I want to bring our viewer or our listener along for the ride. Tell us a little bit about what you do, and then we'll dig a little deeper.
Sure. Well, Tempus is an Australian-listed exploration company, and we're focused on projects that are in the Americas. The main focus is a gold project located in southern British Columbia. And we have a project in Ecuador as copper and gold focused or earlier stage. And we're listed on the Venture and the OTC and the ASX. So we have shareholders. We're building the shareholder base in Canada, and we have an established shareholder base in Australia. And I'm based in Vancouver.
And you're based in Australia. This is so great. So I'm based in Vancouver, and you mentioned your project that's in southern BC. So a lot of people that watch First Glance with Jody Vance or involved with EQUITY.GURU are looking to invest here and are often surprised at how global investment and discoveries or people who are coming at our resources from all over the world. You're a perfect example of this. Tell us a little bit about the projects, like you said, the Black Dome Elizabeth Gold Project. That's what, 200 kilometers north of Vancouver?
Yes, what I do for the Aussies, I say, well, you know where Whistler is? It's just up the road from Whistler. So that puts it in perspective. It's about an hour and a half from Whistler, or about 3 hours from Vancouver, something like that. So it's very accessible, where a lot of the gold projects up in the Golden Triangle are thousands of kilometers up north. This is road access. Where we're currently drilling it mostly in the summer season just because of the elevation. But right. It's in a great area. One of the things that really attracted us to the project is, there's a number of other players around us. There's Talisker Resources, there's West Haven. They're at a very similar sort of stage in the drilling stage, or have just come out with a maiden resource. So, I think Tempus is a relatively new story in Canada, and people are becoming aware of that. And I think there's a attractive opportunity, especially when you look at with the valuations of some of the other peer group companies I've mentioned that are in the same area.
Yeah, so notable for sure. Your ticker symbol is TMRR. Can you explain that?
Yes, TMRR, that's our ticker on the Venture, and TMR in Australia. At the moment, we've been listed here about 2 years on the Venture. The majority of our shareholding base is in Australia, but we're looking to sort of build that here in Canada and increase the awareness. I'm actually based in Vancouver, although the company is Australian based. Some of our team is in Perth, but our geologists, myself, are closer to the projects here. So it's it's a very, very high grade gold, I think, compared to when you look at other comparable projects, Australia or Canada. This is something that stands out. It's extremely high grade. And what's very unique about it is sets us apart is we have existing infrastructure. This is really 2 projects that are now under a joint ownership. And that's why it's called Elizabeth and Black Dome. So Elizabeth is where we're drilling a new resource. We're planning to come out with a resource estimate, which is the first one since 2009 on this project. And over the next few months, we're working on that now. We've had 2 years of fantastic drilling on the project, got some great results. We're discovering more veins. But the other aspect is that the Black Dome part of our properties, it was an existing mine for a short period of time, 1985-91, but there's an existing process plant and tailings storage facility on our mining leases that are fully permitted. So this is a key advantage. While we're an exploration company, Yeah, fast tracking the coming up with a mineable resource estimate. Where
Mhm.
we also have this existing infrastructure in place that's fully permitted, and especially in Canada or British Columbia, to start that permitting process from the start would take several years. So that's a
Yeah.
key advantage. Once we have the mineable resource, our intention is to move to a production or cash flow scenario very quickly.
Well, and that is something that piques the interest of investors. Certainly, one of the reasons why First Glance is important, because we are trying to get the information to the investors that might not have the inside scoop. And oftentimes, particularly in gold, in that lane, it is a very insulated sort of information network, if you will. And one of the things we like to do is bring forward opportunities. Obviously, nothing's guaranteed, but some of the things you're saying, the peer groups around you, the veins that have given some good results, the infrastructure that is there, the permitting that is there, all things that should be taken into consideration. Obviously, from an investment perspective, there's always risk involved. However, people are looking for an interesting and perhaps fun and adventuresome and hopefully profitable situation to get into. Now, I want to ask you, as the interviewer that I am, I want to know a little something about you, if you don't mind. What is Jason's background? You talk about being here in Canada, being based here in Vancouver, and the people that you work with. Where do you come from in terms of your profession? What led you to being a part of Tempus Resources?
Well, it's sort of an interesting background. I've always had a mining hat on in one form or another over the past 30 years. I'm originally a Queen's mining engineer. And I worked early in my career, I worked in operations, mostly in underground gold mining. So we're coming full circle here.
Wow.
I worked up in Yellowknife, the gold mine there in the 90s. And then I went to Australia for 6 months, came back 22 years later, as these things
Wow.
work. Yeah, so
Wow.
I thought Australia is not a bad spot. It's not as cold as Canada. Let's try this out for a while. I ended up working for Rio Tinto, one of the largest mining companies in the world, looking
Yeah.
at large scale feasibility projects, looking at acquisitions for Rio. And then I still with a mining hat on, I stepped into investment banking, sort of progressing. And most of this was all in Australia and Asia. So I worked for Deutsche Bank, I've worked for Macquarie Bank, I've done a lot of capital markets and mergers and acquisitions. Now, come back full circle. I came back to Canada in 2012, 2013, got involved in the junior sector. So really, applying all this sort of background and running these little companies, you need to be pretty hands-on. So, bringing the actual practical operational experience, the financial and banking experience. And so I'm excited about it. This is an opportunity to create value, rather
Yeah.
than working, for a large sort of corporate. I think we have a very exciting, sort of project, a very good team. And, it's over the past 2 years moving quite quickly. So I've known some of the principals behind the board of this company for many, many years. So we fast forward to I got involved in 2020 with Tempus. It had just listed. We're in the midst of COVID. They couldn't even get here, and it was just a timing and a perfect fit. So it was a pleasure to sort of join the company, and we did the TSX, finished the TSX listing here because of the
Yeah.
assets being in North America. Want to get some exposure, but we're building that up now, and we may do future equity raisings. We have the ability to do it in either location, which is another advantage, because sometimes these markets, the Australian and the Canadian markets, are out of sync. So we can raise money in Australia, raise money in Canada. So it gives us some flexibility in dealing with market variations on a regional basis. Yeah. So and then yeah. So
I
I've
think it's
been.
fascinating. One of the things I'd like to point out of this, because it's always interesting listening to somebody answer the question of tell me something about yourself. And really what I'm taking away here is this is not your first rodeo. You've seen it from all sides. You likely don't have to do a thing, but you are passionate about doing what you do very well. And this seems like an exciting opportunity for you that checks a lot of boxes. And I also like as somebody who's a novice when it comes to markets and investments, I invest. I have a portfolio. I'm discerning about how I invest. However, I'm not an expert. So when I listen to you and you're talking about the how the markets are not necessarily in sync and they fluctuate, that makes a whole lot of sense. And yet this is the first time I've heard anybody throw that down. So I kind of dig where you're coming from, I gotta say.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to bring a different perspective. So I've brought quite a an international perspective to a company here in British Columbia. So
it's neat. Let's talk about what happened just most recently, the bonanza and high grade gold from Elizabeth drilling results that you had. Let's get specific. Let's drill down a little bit if you don't mind.
Well, we've had, I mean, when we started working on this project in 2020, there was effectively this one vein. There was a historical resource. Since we've done 20,000 meters of drilling or 80 more drill holes, probably double the amount of exploration that had ever been done on this project. And we made a number of new discoveries. And what we're seeing is, extremely sort of high grade. This stands out. A common metric is, ounces per ton. If we go back instead of the old grams and more modern grams per ton, for example, over the past year, and just in one of the veins alone, we've had like 8 intersections, with over an ounce per ton. This is extremely high grade. So even on, the project scale of this size, the grade is, in the mining industry, there's a saying, grade is king, because it gives you a lot of flexibility with the operation. And having these milling assets in place already that are permitted. So, from a risk point of view, things are mitigated quite a bit. The permitting risk is low, the infrastructure is already developed. We're focusing on the resource. So I think we're coming up with a new resource statement very soon, in the next couple of months. The holes that we just announced were the last 7 holes of the 2022 drill program there. And really what we've had an excellent year in the past year, and finding new discoveries. And what we're seeing from this drilling is it's highlighting that a couple of these new veins we've discovered, one called the number 9 vein, one called the blue vein, that there's a lot more upside in that. We're seeing the drilling is showing us that this extends much farther than we previously thought. So we have, veins. These are quartz veins, gold. You can see the gold, visible gold in vertical quartz veins. We have a number of them that are close together. So it's kind of I put my underground mining hat back on, and this is a perfect scenario in terms of, I like what I see from an operational point of view, the access. It's on a mountain where we get to drive in at the bottom, and the gravity helps you. You're not sinking shafts and things that are very expensive. So it's got a great overall footprint that we can bring this on at a very low capital cost. And, we're running various sort of scenarios. We still have a lot of work to do, but as we progress the drilling and build up to resource, we're ticking a number of the boxes on bringing this into production from a feasibility point of view. We've done a study of what's it going to cost to restart that mill? What's the operating cost going to be? So, we're seeing, in addition to that, we've done 20,000 meters of drilling, 80 drill holes. We're the past year, we've had some fantastic results. I mean, we're seeing grades up to 50 ounces per ton in some of these intersections, 15 grams per ton. So
that's a lot of excitement and an opportunity for somebody who wants to be a part of something that could, like you say, get big. It's checking a lot of boxes. TempusResources.com.au for more information. Jason Bahnsen, the president and CEO of Tempus Resources, TMRR, on the TSX Venture Exchange. And you said TMR on the Australian market, right?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Please circle back when you are putting out your next release. I'd like to follow along on this journey as we do on First Glance with Jody Vance. And welcome to the family. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Jody. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for the chat. Appreciate it.
Have a good one. Down under.
Thank you.